I would have gotten us banned right there. Boom.
Exactly.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve live stream. We're back. This is 3 weeks in a row.
No,
We have been
wow.
back. We did a really horrible job promoting we were going live streaming, but we are here nonetheless. And it's kind of weird because it's like you are in the future because you're 7 hours ahead of me, and I'm watching the Twitter stream, and we just now went live. We have a 30-second delay. And we were just talking about the possibility that I could have been
Okay.
banned on Twitter. So they now have they put one of those things they do on network TV on us now.
See, I don't know what did we do, Steve? What did we do?
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're just sucked into whatever I did. I'm not sure what I did to have
That's
my
not good.
post not being showed up, but I don't know. I don't understand, but it's super weird. But we are nevertheless we are live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter for
And
both of
Twitter.
our accounts. So yeah.
Great.
So how you doing, Asha?
I'm doing pretty good, Steve. It's stormy here.
Is it?
So, yeah, we're getting some storms from the Atlantic side, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of getting our own little versions of mini hurricanes, I guess. I don't
Oh
know.
wow, really?
Yeah, it's really strange. It's really strange. It's quite windy and I got completely soaked, like wet. Like, it's like that sideways
Hmm.
rain
Oh
that,
yeah.
doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get hit in the face and everywhere. Just,
So you just deal with it.
you just deal with it. You get used to it.
Well, that's how you guys get all your great flowers, right? In the
Yes.
spring, you guys get a lot of storms at this time of year, right? A lot of rain.
Well, I mean, we get a lot of rain, but the storms, that's something new. That's like literally the last couple of years that's been coming
Ah,
through more. So, but
well,
anyway,
that's
but
strange. Well, and so for those that are watching or might catch this on the replay, where is there?
here is the Netherlands.
Say that again. The Netherlands.
The Netherlands.
The
Yes.
Netherlands.
Yes.
And so it's still technically winter there, or you guys already have spring weather showing up?
We've got some spring weather showing up, which
Okay.
has been nice. We've had some really beautiful days here and there. It's been nice. I mean, spring for here, which is like 48 degrees.
Oh, that sounds. I mean, I'm in Austin. It's gonna be 78 today. I mean,
Yeah, I was just thinking that as I said that, I'm like, 48 degrees is not going to translate in Austin spring, but for
yeah.
here, it's quite warm.
Well, 2 weeks ago we were dealing with ice, and people thought it was the end of days.
Oh
It's
my goodness.
it was crazy. Well, what are we talking about today? Because we are
Yeah.
live. So I mean,
Yeah, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Let's see. We're talking about that's actually a good idea, right, Steve?
we
I
had
think some
several
water
viewers,
got
but they
into my
just left. I
head.
don't know. I don't understand why they would leave. Why would you leave us? This is awesome. We were just about to say what we were talking about, but then you just left, so you don't know. So,
Exactly.
but
No, we were talking about how to train yourself to take action.
how to train yourself to take action.
Yeah.
I love this. So, when you first proposed it, this obviously came from a listener's
Yes.
question or input. So I'm curious, give us a little background.
Yeah.
How'd this come up? Tell us about it, and then let's dive into it.
So this comes from a rather new entrepreneur.
Well,
He is finding it really like at the beginning, he's probably been into it for about 6 months now. At the
okay.
beginning, he was really gun ho, like full energy, like I got to do this and I got to do that. And then he just kind of hit like a wall, like, and he just didn't want to do anything. Like he didn't feel inspired, didn't feel that was weird. Did you just see something flash up on the screen? Okay.
I just clicked a button that says "Don't click this button during live stream." I'm like,
Yeah. I don't know
whoa,
what the message was
why
that
did
it
it?
said, but
Why did it say not to? I want to know. Anyway, sorry. So, fairly new entrepreneur.
yeah. So fairly new entrepreneur and was just wanting to know like how, like he was asking me, he's like, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, you've been in business for a long time. how do you stay motivated? How do you take action? How do, even on the days that you don't want to? And that's how this question came up. I thought it would be good for us to talk about because, Steve, I
Sure.
think you are the master of action oriented. Like you're a very action oriented person,
I don't
right?
know if that's I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, I appreciate the compliment for sure.
No, I mean, you
Yeah,
are.
I mean, it's interesting because I'm guessing with this entrepreneur being fairly new to their business, 6 months, they're probably experiencing a bit of overwhelm.
Yes.
There's a lot of, oh my God, did I make the right decision? There's
Yeah.
probably some frustration. They're probably at that point where they're like, okay, now do I need to add to, to me and, start to
Exactly.
create some depth within a
Yeah.
team and those are all very challenging decisions, especially early stage entrepreneurship can be a big
Right.
problem, I think, for a lot of people. And it's a place where you test your metal. But I think I had a really sort of important conversation with a past boss before I became an entrepreneur and he said nothing happens, by sitting still. You
Right.
have to always be moving forward, doing something to further your cause, whether it's getting your product
Hmm.
or your service out there, making one more phone call, making one additional cold call, doing something to always get yourself from where you are now to where you want to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the key factor for action is that you have to have a game plan. You have to understand where you want to go, what you want to do, right? What you want to
Yeah.
accomplish and set some goals and objectives for yourself because that helps you stay accountable to maybe no one other than yourself. But at the end of the day,
Exactly.
it allows you to measure progress.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, from an action perspective, then you have to ask yourself, what's the next best or next right decision that I need to make in order to
Hmm.
help my cause? And so I think from a business owner perspective, you're always thinking that. And I think the more that you can get accustomed to doing that, the more aligned you will become with what needs to happen and when it needs to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what, Steve? I think it's one of those things that whether you're starting out or whether you are further down the line, I think it's about that accountability, also taking responsibility, taking your own responsibility. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to do, I mean, there's certain things that you delegate, absolutely, but
Yeah.
you've got to be your own motivator. You've got to be like, okay, I'm responsible for my actions or inaction. And then doing small, consistent things. Like just start small if you need to. It's just like, I mean, think about, whenever you work out, taking good care of your health, taking good care. It's not just one day that you decide to eat healthy and exercise that's going to just, that's going to
Make
be
all the
good enough
difference.
for the next
Yeah.
50 years. You know what I mean? Like,
Damn it. That's
wouldn't that
what
be
that's what I've
something?
been doing wrong, apparently.
Wouldn't that be something? But I mean, it's the consistency, right? It's the consistency.
Sure.
And once you train yourself to do it, you feel more motivated. You know how you feel. It feels good. It feels good to get things accomplished too. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah, it does. And I let me ask you a question. Well, two questions. First question was, did you just have a spinner in your hand?
I did.
We're
Oh
like
my god,
twins.
that is crazy.
But it's actually kind of a, I don't know what you
It's
call this,
funny.
kind of a good analogy, right? These things
It is.
are really great action to make something happen for it, right?
Exactly. That's
And
true.
that's true for momentum forward progress for being an entrepreneur as
Yeah.
well. You have to take whatever that next step is, you've got to do something in
Yeah.
order to move yourself from dead center to where you want to go. And I think, the second question I would ask you is what
Mhm.
is one next action or what did you do to energize yourself to take a specific action that you can now look back as an entrepreneur and go, man, I'm so glad I did that.
Hmm.
And now I'll cue the Jeopardy music. Do, do,
Yeah,
do,
I know. I'm like,
do,
so
do.
what is one action that I've taken
Yeah, like
that
so
has
when one of the actions that you can actually remember going back and going, gosh, I'm so glad I did this because it actually helped me get to this next stage or this next thing or make that, make that progress that I needed to make as an entrepreneur. And if you had not, where might you be?
I have no idea, Steve. That is a good question. That's a really good question. I've really not thought about that because I think um I've gotten so used to being in that mode of taking action, like
Yeah.
just, training myself to make decisions and to take actions. I can't really think at this moment in time of that one thing. I mean, other than, well, I guess I would say, like, see, the first thing that came to my mind was moving countries was a
Yeah.
big action. But I mean, yeah, it's a big action.
Yeah.
Like,
You weren't even running from the law at the time. Let's
no,
just be
I
honest.
wasn't
I just want
even
everybody
running
to
from
know.
anybody. Exactly.
So if you get on like America's Most Wanted, Asha's face is not there.
No, it's
Just
not
so we
there.
know.
But I mean, it's like, and the reason why that came to my mind was that because that was such a big step and a big decision that propelled me into so many um different other action steps that led me to
Sure.
where I am right now.
Well,
So,
and I can go back to when you did make that decision.
yeah,
The thing that I think was interesting was I remember when you decided to move from the US to the Netherlands,
yeah,
you weren't 100% sure you were going to continue being a health practitioner. You
right.
were, so you had the action of making the move, but then when you got there, you realized, hey, I have a skill set that could really benefit and help people.
Yeah,
So I would propose that you took the action to make the move, but then as the entrepreneur that you are, the next best action was, okay, now I have to learn the language and I
yeah,
have to be able to communicate because I have to be able to speak in a way that inspires confidence that I know what I'm talking about and that
yeah,
my patients are going to believe what I tell them, and that
yeah,
kind of requires meeting them where they're at, right? So that's one.
yeah,
The other thing that I think that I was thinking about as you made the move, the next great action that you took was, okay, well, in the interim while I'm doing that, laying the groundwork and learning the
yeah,
language, getting my practice set up, starting to build my patients, I need to be able to still pay for myself, right? I still need
yeah,
to pay the bills, put food on the table. And so you
yeah,
started looking at other alternatives,
yeah,
which is how you got into information products and training and coaching and
yeah,
doing all the things that you were doing. So I think it's kind of funny because you were stuck like deer in headlights when I gave it to you. But now, if you think about it, how many great actions did you
yeah,
take out of necessity in order to get the progress that you wanted to make, make it possible, make your dream possible?
yeah. No, that is true. And you know what? I do think a lot of those action steps, Steve, come out of necessity a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. When I looked at my entrepreneur career, when I first started my company, I moved to Austin, didn't know anybody. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, how am I going to fix that? Right. And I'm
Yep.
introverted and shy. Cold calling was not my jam. I hated that with a passion, although I did it begrudgingly. But what I
Right.
realized was that success leaves clues. And so I started paying
Yeah.
attention to the local business journal, kind of getting a little bit of the lay of the land about who some of the movers and shakers were in Austin at
Mhm.
that time. And then I just started reaching out. Hey, I'm a brand new entrepreneur. I'm just starting my company. I don't have any network here. And I'm curious, would you spend 30 minutes with me? I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Mhm.
Help me get the lay of the land. Help me understand what it takes to get,
Right. Right.
some momentum here in Austin. And this was before, Austin blew up like it has. But
Yeah.
at that time, way back when in 1993, people were like super open to it, super accommodating. And I'm like,
Yeah.
look, I've been doing some research. You're an entrepreneur I respect and admire. Would not suck for me to learn from you if I could.
Right.
And people just they responded in kind. And in fact,
Yeah.
most of those people that I reach out are still very strong colleagues and friends of mine to this day.
Yeah.
And I believe it's because I knew that I had a problem. I didn't have connections, and building a
Exactly.
business when you don't have connections is really tough and can be challenging. So how was I going to overcome that? And then I had to
Yeah.
look at the opposite side, which was the other alternative is just beat my head against doing a process of cold calling that I absolutely hated. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work
Exactly.
smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Although strategically, I wanted to also at the same time build some reputation for, hey, this guy really he's not just about, hey, what he can get from me. He's about, hey, what can I contribute to pay you back for this time or this expertise?
Exactly.
And so those actions that I took early on really laid the foundation for the network and the reputation I have now today.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That is, I mean, and it is really something about that really, I always encourage people, whether you're a new entrepreneur or not, I mean, networking and reaching out to people and connecting with people never, I mean, you'll never go wrong doing that. There's
So
so much.
We
Yeah.
talked about, yeah, an excellent point, and it, even to this day when people are so busy,
Yeah.
how many times has somebody reached out to you to say, "Hey, do you mind if I pick your brain to get some expertise?" Not because
Mhm.
I want to sell you a product or service, but because
Exactly.
you're somebody I respect and admire. And at the end of the day, it's so rare that that happens. You
Yeah.
all automatically differentiate yourself by having the courage and the guts to do that, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
I
true.
think that can't be, I think that strategy continues to work to this day. We talked about how do you train yourself, however,
Mhm.
to take action. So, how do you train yourself right now as an entrepreneur to take action
Mhm.
on a daily basis, quarterly basis, annual basis?
Mhm. I mean, definitely one of the things is, and we've talked about, having some daily like checkpoints actually in my agenda. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like certain things that are just non-negotiable, have to do today, have to do every day or whatever it is. And some days of course you wake up and you don't feel like doing it. But I will tell you, once you get over, you let yourself feel whatever that is and you say, "Okay, well, you know what? This is for the greater good. I'm going to just do it." Once you do that, Steve, I find that, for myself, if it's not in my agenda, if it's not there, then I have a tendency, just like any other human being, be like, you know what? I'll get to it later. It's not that important. I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's how I train myself is that, you know what? I have this time, look at my agenda, pick out the things, organize myself to the best of my ability. So that way I'm prepared.
So is this why when I like reach out to you on Facebook and you're like, I'm too busy to talk to you? Leave
No,
me alone.
I never say that. I never say that, Steve.
Oh, maybe you don't say it. I'm thinking it though. I'm thinking that you're thinking it. Well, no, it's good because you have a game plan, right? At the
Yeah,
end of the day, that's what it is, right? How do you train yourself to take action? Well, have a game plan going into that day. There are going to be things that you
yeah,
absolutely do not want to do, especially as business leaders or entrepreneurs. There are just things that are just like, oh, I
yeah,
like I hate billing. I hate
yeah,
reviewing, what I need to do to charge people. I hate all of that. However, I do like eating and I do like, paying, salaries. And so I
exactly.
remind myself that if I don't take that action and I procrastinate, then things don't get done. People don't get paid. So that's a problem.
Yeah,
And so you do have to, figure that out. So I carve out a day and a time that I deal with that. I just
yeah,
know it's there. I know I'm going to have to deal with it. It makes it predictable. And then I
yeah,
know at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, it's like, "Ugh, I got to go through this. It's painful, but then I also change my attitude about it. It's like, hey, how blessed am I that I get to collect this money? How blessed am I that I've got
yeah,
this opportunity? And then I'm able to, ripple that on, so to speak, to people by way of paychecks, et cetera. So I think that's critical. The other thing I'd say, in addition to having your game plan, is that especially if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, if you're not good at taking action, you're more waiting for things to unfold, or you're like, let's just see how things go. I'm going to sit back here on procrastination couch. You're
right.
probably picking the wrong business to go into, right?
Yeah,
The wrong profession, because entrepreneurs have to constantly be thinking about what's my
yeah,
next right action? What's my next right decision to make? What do I need to do to further
exactly.
the progress? Because nobody, I think you and I are very similar. We just don't sit back and rest on our laurels like, I
No.
made it. This is so great. Like Wednesday afternoons, like when I go through our billings, like,
Mhm.
oh, look at this. I don't need to go out and collect any more revenue. I got all that I need. It just doesn't work. No, you've got to be
No.
out there being like, okay, what else am I going to do? How else do I move the needle? What else am I going to do to grow my business, grow my brand, my
Yeah.
reputation?
Yeah. No, that's true. And you know what? It is a good point. It's a good way to see if you are not an action taker. And, you might want to consider not going into business for yourself. I mean, and it's okay. It's okay. I mean,
Or
we're
get a
all
dance
different.
partner like we've talked about, right?
Or
Have a
yeah, exactly, or get a dance partner,
co-creator.
exactly. I mean, you definitely because there's gonna be things that I mean, even if you call yourself a non-action taker, you probably do take actions on the things that you like to do. So that would be perfect scenario for you to find that business partner, that dance partner for you that can complement you in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, without question. So
Yeah.
we are live for about 20 minutes right now. Debbie Sunny Brome just gave us a love heart. It's perfect because it was Valentine's this week, so that works out
Yes,
perfect.
that's
It's
perfect.
like Facebook figured that process out for us. But thank you for that love and that attention. Let us know if you have any questions, anything specific that you're thinking about relative to action, maybe challenges that you're dealing with,
Mhm.
obstacles that you might need some help overcoming when it comes to taking action. I think when we talk about training yourself to do it, it becomes part of that process. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's like getting up, going to the gym, doing the things that you need to do to, improve your mental and your physical health. Well, the same is true for this kind of,
yeah,
approach as well. The actions that you take, having a clear understanding of what it's going to take for you to get from where you are to where you want to go, I think is really important.
yeah,
Where I find, and you've probably seen this as well with some of your coaching clients, is there's no defined end game a lot of times that a lot of
yeah.
folks think about. They're just, yeah, well, I just kind of backed into this situation, or I kind of lucked into this. It was
Mhm.
my side hustle, now it's my full-time gig, or I didn't expect to be doing this for my career, but now I'm doing it now. But what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do, and where do you want to
Exactly.
go, and where, how can what you're doing take you there?
Yeah.
Because having some sort of end game, some goal and objective to figure out what that looks like is super
Mhm.
critical, because in order to get there, you're going to have to do certain things right and consistently
Exactly,
right.
and
So what are
consistently.
those things? And those become the actions, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know what, Steve? It's like a lot of people ask me, how do I get that calmness in my mind? How do I get more clarity? How do I get focus? And it's just like, okay, well, what are you doing right now to get that? Like, what are you actually? Do you have practices in your everyday life? Do you have certain things that you are doing? And if they say no, well, I just want it. Well, it's kind of difficult to just get. What does that mean to you to have that clarity and that focus? What does that mean to you? How does that, and what I mean by that, what does that mean to you? What does it give you in your life, in your business, whatever it is, that's going to make you feel like, you know what, you've accomplished something or that you've reached that goal?
Yeah.
That's You've got to look at it from that perspective. And then that'll help you motivate you and inspire you into action.
Yep, absolutely. So when you find that you're working with an entrepreneur or a business owner that's really struggling, and you ask those questions, and then they just kind of look at you with that blank stare, like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
How do you take them to get them to start to formulate that idea or that strategy about what needs to be, geared towards that next action for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, Steve, is first we have to get like a good lay of the land. What is on their plate right now? Because those things that are really overwhelming them, that are really staring them in the face of, oh my God, I've got this and this and this. We've got to get that out in the open and be able to see it in front of us. Because then you can kind of see, okay, now let's take a look at all those things. Let's prioritize. And then whenever we prioritize what needs to get done, like, whatever we need to work on, then we can break it down into the action steps. And then it makes it easier. It makes these small bite size, chunks to tackle.
So, can you give us an example of a situation where you may have had somebody that was a little bit lost, wasn't sure what to do next, where what was, once you kind of took them by the hand and you kind of guided them? Do you have any, like, success stories that you can share?
Well, the guy that I was talking to you about that actually even proposed this question for us to talk about, one of the biggest things, he has been trying to do a little bit of marketing over here, a little bit of, networking over here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, which is fine. I mean, he
Yeah.
was doing a really, really good job. But then, he started getting worried, of course, as we all do as entrepreneurs, and especially in the beginning, financially, what's going to happen? Like, if I don't get business, if I don't actually get a paying customer, all of that stuff is fine and dandy, but, so what we did is we started looking at, okay, he had put a lot of efforts out there. He had really made some really great contacts. It was just a matter of him actually making that sales call the priority at that point in time. And he was really nervous about doing it because he was used to having these kind of casual conversations, nonchalant, not really having to, you know, drum up business
Do
basically.
anything significant to make somebody sign a
Exactly. It's
check?
like, "Oh, wait a minute. I have to actually there has to be an outcome for this." But what happened was that he ended up really, like, within a couple of months, drumming up so much business that he actually ended up hiring somebody after that. So it was really interesting because he just started going crazy on the sales calls. But then I was like, okay, that's great. But then you've got the administration to do, you've got all this other stuff to do. Now it's probably time to get somebody, to help you.
Well, and that's an action in and of
Yeah,
itself, right?
exactly.
Identifying, hey, you finally got to this point, you need to now take the next action to help build to your team, right? Build your
Exactly.
infrastructure so you don't have to get caught up in the stuff that works against you from being successful
Yep,
and
exactly.
continuing the momentum that you've generated, but at the same time you've got somebody minding the store, so to
Yeah,
speak, right? I do
yeah.
th- I do think when you look to train yourself with actions, you reach a point at some juncture where you start to recognize, and maybe it is through a coach or a consultant that you've
Mhm.
engaged that's kind of pointing these things out. That as you were talking about this one entrepreneur, I was thinking of a client that I had who was really good at building the business, growing. I mean, that they're
Mhm.
they're in their element when they're out pitching and promoting, right? That was
Mhm.
their thing. But at the end of the day, they were getting so much business that they were overwhelming their team back,
Yeah.
at the office.
Yes.
And it's like, hey, yeah, I'm just running, man. I got no time to slow down and worry about it. It's like, well, I can appreciate that, and it's awesome, and clearly you're doing a good job. However, you've got maybe one or two key people back at the office that are sort of dealing with, the
Exactly.
value of success that you've created. What
Yep.
happens if one of them leaves? Never had even contemplated, like, what do you
Yes.
mean? I'm like, well, one of your people, I won't say which, is not super happy right now. They feel
Yep.
overworked and they are stressed by how you're doing a great job. The business is growing, but you're not adding to the back end. And therefore, more work and more effort is having to be expended by, small, number of resources,
Exactly.
and eventually it's super stressful. So what are you going to do if that happens? And it was like, like, oh my God, I had not even contemplated that. It's like, I'm just trying to build
Exactly.
the business and assume that, the more revenue I bring in, the more I can pay these people. And it's like, yeah, but there's a balance at some point, because you could pay them
Yeah.
all, you could give them three more raises. And if they're overworked and they're not appreciated and they feel like they could
Yep.
never catch up and there's
True.
just not enough hands to deliver the end game, right? Whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
The invoices or deliver the product or train on
Yeah.
the service, you're going to end up hitting a wall. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're out selling and you're not able to deliver, which impacts who? And he's like, well, I guess that'd be me and my reputation. It's like, yeah. So
Exactly.
there's a real value in stopping periodically to
Yep.
evaluate where you are and what you need to do. And sometimes those actions that you need to take are specific to, how do I take care of what I've already built? Protect, like I always tell my clients, how do we protect the powder, right? How do you
Yep.
protect, your
Exactly.
revenue base? Because that's what keeps everybody employed. And then ultimately, when am I going to hit these milestones so that I know my next action is I need to slow down enough to
Mhm.
go out, recruit, and hire for the right people, or
Exactly.
I need to maybe outsource my billing to my CPA, or I may need to
Yeah.
get a lawyer to start revising our contracts. There are things that I think, as entrepreneurs, we're often, yeah, that's a detail. I'll figure it out when I get there.
Right.
But at some point, they become details that you no longer can wait to figure out. You have to figure them out. And
Yeah.
that too becomes an action. So I think, I guess the advice I give to almost everybody that's out there running their own thing, when do you reach that point where you come back and say, hey, wait, I got to take a time out. I got to evaluate, got to make sure whatever my next right actions
Yeah.
are clearly defined and understood so that I make the time to do them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's important. I think it's also important, Steve, to build that in to your planning, whether it's once a month, once a quarter. I like to do it once a quarter to kind of see exactly, okay, this is what's happened, this is what we're trying to do this quarter, or this is what we did last quarter. Have those in mind because that's part of it too. You got to know kind of the roadmap of where you're going and when it's appropriate for what kinds of actions.
So, do you do your planning sessions when you do that strategic planning? Do you set aside a couple of hours a day,
Yeah.
or how do you do that?
So, well, strategic planning, like whenever I do that on a quarter basis. Like I will look at the whole year ahead. Somewhere in November, December is usually whenever I do that. I look at the next year, take a moment, take some time to look back and see kind of what we've done. But throughout the year, taking a couple of hours to do the strategic planning per quarter before that quarter ends to look at the next quarter.
Yeah.
I
And then
mean,
so how would you walk us through just like real briefly, just the quarterly planning sessions. What does that look like? And yeah, obviously you're comparing, hey, this is what I said I would do at the beginning of the year. So you're
mhm.
evaluating progress there. But then ultimately when you're doing the quarterly sessions, is that something that you're doing over just kind of a designated period of time? And do you do it by yourself or do you do it with your team or how do you do it?
So, I mean, I do it on both. I do it with myself first to get my head clear because that's one thing, Steve, you know that. If you're not clear and you're leading the team, forget about it. Like you're gonna, it's not a good idea. You better get clear yourself before. So, I mean, of course,
Seems
I
like you're
do it.
directing that at me, right? Guilty as charged, I will say.
No, but
Guilty
you
as
know what it is? It's like, in order to really communicate your messaging and communicate where we're going to and what you want to see happen and those kinds of things and to get real input from your team members. And then I think it's important to sit down with the team and discuss it. But I also think, in saying all this about having these plans and everything, one thing I want to say is that you can't have like rigidity throughout the whole thing because things happen, ebbs and flows, things
yeah,
change, you get inspired by certain things, you're just like, "Wait a second, we had to do a course correction, we're gonna go this way a little bit, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, whatever." And you can't have rigidity in it, which makes it fun because
yeah.
then there is some room for that creativity to go along with it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, you have to be somewhere between squirrel and and,
Exactly.
and rigid is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly, you have to be somewhere between that.
So on those days when I do that planning, I need to have less caffeine
Yes.
and make sure I got a good night's sleep.
Yes, that would be advised.
Well, I love that we brought this up. I think this is a really powerful conversation. For those of you that may get this on the podcast, we encourage you to go back and check out our video because Asha is so lovely to watch on video. Her expressions and what she
I'm,
does,
like, all over the place.
it's so much fun. You can find it on LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Facebook page. Yes, our
Yes. Yes.
conversations with Asha and Steve on Facebook. Um, Asha, as we wind this down, how do people offer up? This was a great suggestion from a listener, and we appreciate that. We
Yeah.
always love to hear from folks that are watching the video or live streams or our videos or tuning into the podcast. But how can people get involved, get engaged with us, maybe suggest future topics they'd like us to cover or any of that good stuff?
Yeah, so they can go to, our Facebook or Instagram, Conversation with Asha and Steve, go to our website, conversationwithashandsteve.com, and definitely leave us a message, or if you are catching this on the replay, leave a comment below, and we're always checking those and answering those, so if you have any questions or wanna submit any topics or anything, just reach out to us there.
Yeah. And, before we go, I want to make sure that we point out that Dr. Asha has some really great programs available on her website right now, but you have one in particular that you wanted to share, right?
I do. So my website is drashaprasad.com, and I don't know, Steve, if you have the link that I sent you, but I have my new course.
You showing me a link?
I
Yes.
did, but
Keep
that's
talking
okay.
while I'm looking. Oh, you know what? I think I might have
But my
deleted your
newest
email.
course, I'm just releasing it, and I've got a really special deal for everyone out there. It's called The Power of Breath, Boost Your Productivity and Manage Your Stress.
Stand by,
It
watch.
Yes.
Hold on. I have to get rid of our branding though. Keep talking. This is what happens when I'm given the responsibility of showing stuff. Keep going. Yes.
So this course is really something that's very near and dear to me. I think Steve's pulling it up. Great.
Woo!
So good job, Steve. Good job.
Thanks. Oh, there we go. Woohoo! Look at that.
Because one of the things I've been a practitioner and a coach for many, many years now, and there's so many different aspects to getting yourself more centered, more grounded, getting rid of your anxiety, managing your stress. And one of the main things that I usually end up teaching, whether it's, with patients or clients, is the powerful breathing techniques that we can all use to really get a hold of our stress and bring more balance and equilibrium to our lives, and professional and personal. So I thought I would create a introduction course, and that's what I've done. So be sure to check that out. We can you can find that on the website, but I'll leave the link in the comments, and so you can get more information about that. And yeah, so I'd love to see you there.
Awesome.
So, and
Yeah, that's
Steve,
fantastic. Yeah, no, it's
you have something coming up tomorrow
I
that
do
people
have something
absolutely
tomorrow.
have to know about. They do.
Let's see if I can actually show it though. Hold on. Stand by. I'll show it. So oh wow, you want your stream doesn't want to be removed. It's like, no, leave me. Here we go. So yeah, tomorrow we're actually
Yeah.
hosting an 8-minute Ripple, which is networking for non-networking people, and we will be hosting this event virtually because kind of that's where we are right now in life and everywhere. But I created this event, 8-minute Ripple, to give people a completely different perspective on the power of connecting. We're doing it in a virtual environment. We know a lot of people have online meeting fatigue. This is not your everyday average online meeting. In fact, we have pre-work we actually ask you to do. We call it groundwork. There's some stuff that we ask you to do before you show up. And then you get to have an opportunity to visit with some amazing people. We call them Ripplers. And it's a 2 hour, a little over 2 hours. We open up early, 30 minutes to come mingle and kind of hang out and listen to our Ripple playlist. We're actually going to be showing Asha, you'll love this. We actually had a good friend of mine that is a mixologist create the Rippler drink. So we're
Oh,
going to be,
wow.
highlighting that video for the first time tomorrow. We have a guest
Okay.
speaker. Gloria Bell is going to actually be our guest speaker for short presentation tomorrow. Then we jump into the Ripple, and then we go into this process I call the Adult Swim, which is where all the crazy fun stuff happens. So
Great.
if you just go to ripple.regfox.com, 8-minute Ripple, February 2022, you'll find it. We'll put a link in as well, just so everybody has an idea of
Yeah.
where to go and how to get there. And yeah, so we're kind of excited. It's a fun process for me to do the Ripple. We enjoy them a lot, and people get to connect at a level that is way different than any
Yeah.
traditional business networking function. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yep.
Good.
So, well, this has been great. We really appreciate everybody joining us. If you're catching this on the replay, leave us a comment wherever you're catching this. We'd love to hear from you. Obviously, podcast folks, there's no way to easily leave a comment, but jump over to Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube.
Yeah.
Just search up Conversations with Asha and Steve. You'll find this stream. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you thought of this episode and any other topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We'd be happy to tackle those and take those on. So we will be back very, very soon with another episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve. But until then, Asha, I'm going to go make my action plan. I'm jumping into it. I'm going to make it happen. You do the
do that,
same.
Steve. Good.
All right. Well, listen, you take care, and we'll be back next week, I think, for another live
Yeah.
stream.
Sounds great, Steve. Take care.
Take
See you
care.
next week.